Caleb Hunter shouldered his Winchester, took one hard look at the woman lashed to the cedar post, and cocked the hammer without saying a word. Blood had crusted the ropes at her wrists until they looked black against her pale skin. Two newborns lay wailing at her feet, blue-lipped, kicking the snow with their tiny bare legs, like they were fighting the Wyoming cold with the last strength the good Lord gave them. 15 years he had kept his distance from other folks' trouble. 15 years of silence, broken right here, right now. "Ma'am?" he said, voice rough as sandpaper. "I'm gonna cut you loose. And whoever did this, God help them when I catch up." Before we ride any further, friends, if this story reaches into your heart the way it reached into mine, take a moment right now to subscribe to the channel and ring that little bell so you don't miss what comes next. And tell me, down in the comments, what town or city you are watching from today. I read every single one, and it warms an old storyteller's bones to know where these tales are traveling. Now settle in close, because what you are about to hear is going to break your heart wide open before it ever lets you mend. Caleb's knife came out of the sheath quick and clean. The ropes looked new, tied by hands that knew what they were doing. He sawed through the left wrist first, and her arm fell heavy as a dead branch. "Stay with me, ma'am. You hear me? You stay with me." She made a sound. Not a word, just a breath with something human still inside it. "That's right. That's enough. Just keep breathing." He got the right wrist, then the loop around her waist. Her knees buckled the second she came free of the post, and he caught her under the arms before she pitched into the snow. "Easy, easy. I got you." He laid her down gentle, scooped up the first baby, tucked her inside his sheepskin coat against the skin of his chest, scooped up the second, tucked her on the other side. Both of them squalled so loud they liked to split his eardrums, and he had never in his life been so glad to hear a child cry. "Good," he whispered into the top of one small head. "You holler, little miss. You holler till the mountains hear you." He lifted the woman over his shoulder. She weighed nothing. He balanced the twins against his chest with one arm, kept her steady with the other, and started the half-mile walk back to where his mare stood tied. The snow came to his knee in the drifts. He did not slow down. "Name's Caleb," he said to the woman on his shoulder, to the babies against his ribs, to the cold air in front of his face. "Caleb Hunter. I live up the ridge. Got a cabin. Got a stove. Got blankets enough for 4 souls if I strip the bed. You ain't dying today, ma'am. Not one of you. Not today." The mare stamped when he came through the trees. She was a patient animal. She had carried him through worse weather than this, though never with this kind of cargo. "Easy, girl. We got passengers." He hoisted the woman across the saddle and swung up behind her with the twins still inside his coat. The mare started down the trace without him asking. She knew the way home. "Almost there," he said. "Almost there, little missus. Your mama's with us. We're almost there." The cabin door banged open under his boot. He laid the woman on the bed nearest the stove and stripped her wet shawl off her shoulders in 3 hard tugs. Her dress was soaked clean through and frozen stiff at the hem. She was shivering hard now. Bone-deep shivers, the kind that shook a body loose from the inside. "Good," he muttered. "Shiver. That means you still got a fight in you." He piled every wool blanket he owned on top of her, threw an armload of pine into the stove. The fire roared up orange and loud. He turned to the twins, peeled the wet cotton scraps off them, dried them with a flannel shirt he ripped into strips, and wrapped them together in a bearskin he had cured himself 3 winters back. "There now, little ones. There now. Old Caleb's got you." One of them stopped crying just long enough to look at him. Blue eyes, wide open, serious as a preacher at a funeral. Caleb felt something crack open in his chest. Something he had nailed shut a long time ago. "I see you, little miss," he whispered. "I see you." The woman on the bed moaned. He was at her side in 2 steps. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Her mouth worked. No sound. "Don't try to talk. Just nod if you hear me." A small nod. Barely a movement. "Good. You got twin girls. Both breathing. Both warm. You hear that?" Her eyes came open. Gray. Rimmed red. She tried to lift her head and could not. My babies. Right here, not 3 feet from you. I'll lay 'em on your chest when you got the strength to hold 'em. Tears ran sideways into her hair. They're alive. Hollerin' like bobcats, ma'am. She closed her eyes and cried without a sound. Her whole body shook with it. What's your name? A long silence, like she had to dig through a grave to find it. Emily. Emily Carter. Emily. All right. I'm Caleb Hunter. You're in my cabin up the ridge from Millerton Creek. Ain't nobody knows these woods but me. She opened her eyes again, searched his face like she was looking for a trick in it. Who are you? Just a man who heard a baby crying and couldn't ride past it. Nobody was supposed to come. Well, somebody did. Her hand came out from under the blankets. Her fingers were ice. She wrapped them around his wrist with more grip than a near-dead woman had any right to have. Don't let them find us. Who? Her eyes were slipping, going glassy. The Whitmores. Please, mister. Don't let the Whitmores find us. And she was gone. Back under. Caleb stayed kneeling a long moment, her fingers still on his wrist. He did not pry them loose. He just stayed. The Whitmores. He knew that name. Every soul between the Powder River and the Bighorn Mountains knew that name. Silas Whitmore owned more cattle than any man in the territory. Owned the bank in Millerton. Owned the newspaper. Owned the sheriff, too. Most folks whispered, though nobody said it above a whisper. Caleb unhooked her fingers gentle and tucked her hand back under the blanket. He stood. He walked to the crate where the twins lay curled up together. Whitmore's, is it? He said under his breath. One baby sighed. The other one kicked a little foot free of the bearskin. He tucked it back in. You two just worry about getting bigger, he told them. Your mama and me will handle the rest. He did not sleep that night. He boiled snow for clean water. He warmed rags on the stove and pressed them against Emily's forehead, her neck, the insides of her wrists where the ropes had cut grooves into her skin. He fed the fire every hour. He checked the twins every half hour, laid his rough knuckle against their cheeks to feel the warmth coming back. He looked at the cut ends of the rope by lamplight. Good rope, new rope, tied by a workman's hand, not a bandit's knot, not a drifter's knot, a ranch hand's knot, a Whitmore hand. He took the rope outside and threw it in the snow where he would not have to look at it again. When he came back in, one of the twins was fussing. He picked her up the way a man picks up a robin's egg. She fit in both his hands. Not one hand, both. That was how small she was. Shh, shh, little one. Your mama's sleepin'. She needs her sleep bad. The baby quieted, turned her cheek against his thumb. That's it, he whispered. That's it, little miss. Old Caleb's got you. She fell asleep against the calloused palm of a man who had sworn 15 winters back, never again to love a living thing he might have to bury. First light came gray and slow. Emily stirred. He heard her before he saw her. A sharp little gasp. The sound a body makes, waking up somewhere it does not recognize. He was at the bedside before her eyes were all the way open. Easy. Easy now, Emily. You're safe. She stared at him wild, did not know him for a second. Then she did, and she started to cry. My girls, right here, sleepin', both of 'em pretty as the mornin'. She tried to push up on her elbow and fell back. I need to hold them. You need to rest. Please. He heard the word the way she said it. Heard the whole life underneath it. He nodded, lifted the nearest baby, and laid her gentle on Emily's chest. Then the second. Both together. 2 tiny fists curled up under their mama's chin. Emily wept without sound. Caleb stepped back, busied himself at the stove. He had lived alone long enough to know how much privacy grief required. After a while she said, Mr. Hunter? Caleb's fine. Caleb, how did you find us? Heard a baby crying. From how far? Farther than I should have. The cold carries sound different, like it don't want to keep secrets. She was quiet a while, stroking one small back, then the other. They were going to let us die. I know. You know. I know a Whitmore knot when I see one. Her eyes snapped to his face. You know them. I know of them. Do you work for them? No, ma'am. He said it flat. No heat. Just a statement laid down like a plank across a creek. I don't work for any man, not for 15 years. She watched him. Then she looked down at her daughters. Their names are Lily and Rose. Pretty names. My husband picked them, before he was gone. Caleb stirred the pot of oats on the stove and did not press. His name was Thomas, Emily said, her voice steadier now, like the story had its own strength once she started telling it. Thomas Whitmore, Silas Whitmore's youngest son. The wooden spoon paused in Caleb's hand, then kept going. He loved me, she said. His family never did. They told him I was beneath him, a schoolteacher's daughter from Ohio, no land, no dowry. He did not care. He married me anyway. His mother did not come to the wedding. I'm sorry, ma'am. He died 3 weeks ago. Fever, came on fast, was gone inside 4 days. I could not get a doctor to the ranch in time. They said they sent for one. I learned later they did not. Good Lord. The twins came the day we buried him. You give birth the day of your husband's funeral. In the back room of the main house. The midwife was a kitchen girl. They would not send for a proper one. Caleb set the spoon down. His jaw worked. Keep going. Silas came in after. Looked at the babies. One look. Then he said 2 girls, a waste of a Whitmore name. He said that. With my babies in the cradle, not an hour old. And then? He told his foreman to take me out to the line cabin in the east pasture and leave me there. The foreman asked him how long. Silas said, till the cold does the Lord's work. Caleb turned around slow. His face was calm. His eyes were not. Foreman's name. Abner Cole. Cole. Yes. I know him. Then you know he does what Silas tells him to do. I know he does. Caleb crossed to the bed, knelt down so she would not have to crane her neck. Emily. Yes. Look at me. She looked. You are not going back there. Not one step, not one word, not ever. You hear me? They will come looking. Let 'em. Caleb, you do not understand what they own. I know what they own. They own the sheriff. They own the judge. They own the newspaper. If they say I ran off, people will believe I ran off. If they say I killed Thomas for his money, people will believe that too. People will believe a lot of things when a rich man tells them to. Don't mean it's true. True does not matter to them. True matters to me. She searched his face, looking for the trick again, not finding one. Why? She whispered. Why would a stranger do this? Because I heard a baby crying, and I was not put on this earth to ride past a crying baby. Not for any man, not for any money, not for any quiet life I've been living. She closed her eyes. A tear ran down her temple. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, ma'am. Work ain't done. She nodded. He stood, went to the window, pushed the shutter back an inch, looked out at the white and the timber and the low gray sky. Caleb. Yes. Have you always lived alone up here? 15 years. Why? He did not answer for a long moment. Had a wife once, he said. Had a boy. Fever took 'em both one winter. Kind of fever that don't ask your permission. Oh, Caleb. I told myself after. No more. No more people. No more burials. Just me and the mare and the timber. And then I heard a baby crying in the snow. Emily said nothing. She did not have to. Caleb watched the timber. Something coming. What? Riders, 3 or 4, still a ways out. She went stiff in this bed. Caleb. They will not get past that door. You hear me? Caleb, please. You eat what you can. You drink what you can. You hold those babies, and you do not come out from under those blankets for anybody but me. Anybody calls your name. Anybody says they come to help. Anybody says they are the law, you do not move. You hear? I hear you. He reached above the door and took down the Winchester, levered around into the chamber, set a box of shells on the windowsill. Caleb? Yes, ma'am. If they take me back, they will take the girls. They will put them in some back room and pretend they were never born. They will find a way. They ain't taking you back. Say it again. He turned to face her, rifle in his hand, face set like stone with a fire underneath. They are not taking you back, Emily Carter. Not while I am above ground. That is my word. And my word has held up 15 years against weather worse than any Whitmore. She looked at him. She believed him. He saw her believe him. All right, she whispered. All right. He pulled a chair over to the window, sat down with the Winchester across his knees. He did not take his eyes off the tree line. The fire snapped in the stove. The twins slept on their mama's chest. The wind came down off the ridge and ran its cold fingers along the cabin walls, looking for a way in and not finding one. Somewhere out beyond the timber, a horse whinnied. Closer now. Close enough for a man who knew these woods to count the riders by the sound of the hooves. 4 horses, moving careful, moving like men who did not want to be heard. Caleb Hunter, who had spent 15 years teaching himself to need nothing and love nothing, and answer to no living soul, laid his thumb along the hammer of the Winchester and watched the trees. Behind him a baby stirred, sighed, settled. He did not turn around. He did not have to. He already knew exactly what he was going to fight for. The first rider broke the tree line at a walk. Caleb counted him. Then the second, then the third, then the fourth riding drag rifle laid across the pommel. 4, he said under his breath, just like I reckoned. He knew the lead horse before he knew the man, a big blood bay with a crooked blaze. Abner Cole's horse. The man himself sat the saddle the way Caleb remembered, heavy in the shoulders, hat pulled low, one gloved hand resting on the butt of his colt like it was a pet dog. Emily. Yes. It's Cole. Her breath caught. He heard it go in and not come back out. Breathe, ma'am. I'm breathing. Good. You stay flat. You stay quiet. No matter what he hollers, no matter what he promises. You hear? I hear. If this goes wrong, there's a root cellar under the kitchen floor. Trapdoors under the rag rug. You take the girls. You go down. You don't come up till I come for you. And if I don't come for you, you wait till full dark, and you ride the mare south along the creek till you hit the Shoshone camp by the Big Bend. Ask for a man named of Two Hawks. Tell him Caleb sent you. He'll see you through. Caleb. Say it back to me. Trapdoor under the rug. Ride south along the creek. Two Hawks. Good. Caleb, don't die for us. He almost smiled. Ma'am, I ain't planning on dying for anybody. Planning on living. Just gotta convince 4 men of it. Abner Cole pulled up 50 yards from the cabin, held up a gloved fist. The other 3 riders stopped behind him in a loose line. Cole stood in the stirrups and cupped one hand to his mouth. Hunter. Caleb Hunter. You up there? Caleb did not answer. Hunter, we know you're up there. Smoke's coming out the pipe. Silence. Hunter, we got no quarrel with you. We're looking for a woman, run off from the Whitmore place 2 nights back, dark hair, gray dress. You seen her? Caleb laid his cheek against the Winchester stock. Sighted through the gun port he had cut into the shutter years ago for exactly this kind of morning. Hunter, don't make us come up there. Caleb spoke, not loud, just loud enough. Cole, stay where you are. Cole grinned. Caleb saw the teeth flash under the hat brim. There he is. Mornin', Hunter. State your business and ride out. Told you my business. Looking for the Whitmore woman. She's touched in the head. Lost her husband. Took off in the night. Got 2 little ones with her. Family's worried sick. That's so. That's so. Funny way to show worry. Tying her to a post with Whitmore rope. The grin died on Cole's face. Behind him, the 3 riders shifted in their saddles. One of them put a hand on his rifle. Another did not. That told Caleb something useful. I don't know what you think you saw, Hunter. I know what I saw. I know what I cut her out of. I know the knot, and I know the hand that tied it. Hunter. Don't Hunter me, Abner. We punched cows together on the Laramie Drive in '78. I know your knot work same as I know my own. Cole's jaw set hard. He wheeled his horse a half turn, wheeled it back. Hunter, I'm gonna say this plain. Mr. Silas Whitmore wants that woman and them babies back at the ranch by sundown. He ain't asking pretty, he's asking once. And I'm telling you plain, the woman ain't comin'. The babies ain't comin'. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Hunter. Turn your horse around, Abner. Cole put his hand on the colt. Caleb put a round into the dirt 6 inches in front of the blood bay's left fore. The horse reared. Cole fought him down, cursing. Next one's in you, Caleb called. Hand off the gun. Cole's hand came off the gun. Slow, furious. You'll hang for this, Hunter. Maybe, but I'll hang knowin'. Knowin' what? Knowin' I did one good thing before I went. Cole stared up at the cabin a long moment. This ain't over, Hunter. Didn't figure it was. We'll be back with paper. We'll be back with the sheriff. We'll be back with every man Mr. Whitmore can put in a saddle between here and Cheyenne. Bring 'em. You'll beg before the end. Abner, ride out. Last time I'm gonna say it. Cole stared another long beat. Then he wheeled the big bay hard and kicked into a lope back toward the timber. The other 3 wheeled with him. The one who had put his hand on the rifle was the last to turn. Caleb watched them until the timber swallowed the last tail, held the Winchester up a full minute more. Then he let his breath out. Emily. I'm here. You can sit up. She sat up slow. The twins were awake on her chest. One was fussing. The other was working her small fist into her small mouth and watching the rafters like she was trying to count them. Caleb came over and knelt by the bed. His hands were shaking. Not much, enough for him to notice. He pressed them flat against his thighs till they quit. You all right? She asked. Should be asking you that. I'm alive. That's more than I was yesterday. He's gone for now. He'll come back. With the sheriff. And worse. She looked down at Lily. Lily looked back with that same serious face Caleb had seen in the snow. What do we do? Caleb thought a long moment. He watched Emily, and he watched the 2 small girls, and he saw everything the Whitmores intended for the 3 of them if he did not move fast. We ride, he said. Ride where? Not far, just not here. Cabin's the first place he'll bring paper to. Gotta put you somewhere he ain't looking while I do what needs doing. What needs doing? I gotta make it so Silas Whitmore can't touch you. Not with paper, not with rope, not with money. And to do that, I got to ride into Millerton. Caleb? No. Got to Emily. They own Millerton. They own most of it. Not all. There's a circuit judge comes through on the 1st of every month. That's 4 days from now. Circuit judge don't answer to Silas. Answers to the territory. I can get to him. And what do you tell him? I tell him the truth. I tell him there is a woman in my cabin who was tied to a post to die. Tied there by Silas Whitmore's foreman on Silas Whitmore's order, the widow of his own son, the mother of his own grandchildren. And they meant to make her disappear. He won't believe you? Maybe not. But you got something no lying man has, Emily Carter. What? You got the rope marks on your wrists. You got 2 babies who were born alive on a day Silas Whitmore swore there weren't any babies. And you got a witness who can testify where he found you and how. She looked down at her wrists. The grooves were purple and black. A witness, she said. Me. A hermit with a rifle? A hermit with a rifle who was a deputy for 2 years down in Cheyenne before he was a hermit. Her head came up. You were what? Long time ago. Caleb. Long time ago, Emily. Another life. But the territory keeps its records and my name is in 'em, and a circuit judge can look 'em up. She stared at him like she was seeing a second man behind the first one. You never told me that. Didn't come up till now. What else have you not told me? Plenty. We got time later. Right now we got to move. He was already moving. Pulled a saddlebag down. Threw in hardtack, jerked venison, a twist of sugar, 2 wool blankets. Where are we going? Old line shack up on Elk Meadow. Belonged to a partner of mine years back. Nobody's used it since. How far? 2 hours easy ride. Hour and a quarter if we push. Caleb, I can barely sit up. I know. The babies. I'll wrap 'em against me, like I did when I brought you down. She sat up further, wobbled, steadied herself on the bedpost. You'll come back for us. I'll come back for you. Caleb, say it. You will come back for us. Before dark tomorrow. That's my word. If I ain't back by dark tomorrow, you do what I told you. Mare's there. Creek south. 2 hawks. Before dark tomorrow. He packed fast. He did not waste emotion. He wrapped Emily in his heavy bearskin. He bound the twins against his chest inside the sheepskin coat, one on each side. He lifted Emily up onto the mare in front of him. He did not even groan with the weight of the 3 of them. They rode hard. Emily slumped against his chest. The twins slept. The mare kept her footing in the drifts like she understood the business. The timber swallowed them, and the sky closed over them. Elk Meadow was a saucer in the mountains ringed with pine, fed by a little spring that did not freeze. The line shack squatted at the north end. Caleb fixed the busted hinge in 10 minutes, got a fire going in the little stone hearth, laid Emily down on a fresh pallet of boughs with his bedroll on top. Caleb, rest in Emily. 2 hours. You did it. You are a stronger woman than any 3 men I have known. She almost smiled. It was the first time he had seen any version of a smile on her face. Keep the babies with you. I will. If they cry, rock 'em side to side. Don't jog 'em, side to side. Thomas always did it side to side when the little one next door was fussy. He practiced, I think, for when they came. Side to side. Got it. She closed her eyes. She was asleep before he finished banking the fire. He laid the twins in a nest of the bearskin beside her, close enough to feel her warmth, far enough not to be rolled on. He stood over the 3 of them a long moment. Lord, he said. It was not a prayer exactly. You keep these 3 breathing till I get back. I ain't asked you for a thing in 15 years. I'm asking you now. He went out. He closed the door behind him. He rode. He rode hard for Millerton. He rode knowing Silas Whitmore would have a 2nd rider out by now, maybe a 3rd. He rode knowing the sheriff in Millerton was a man named Bill Garrity, who owed the Whitmore Bank $4,000 and counting. He rode knowing the judge he needed would not be there for 4 days, and 4 days was a long time in a town full of Whitmore men. He rode anyway. Halfway down the ridge trail, a shape stepped out of the timber in front of him. A man on foot, rifle low, hat low. Caleb pulled the mare up hard. His hand went to the Winchester. Caleb Hunter, the man said. Caleb did not answer. His hand stayed on the Winchester. Easy, friend. I ain't Whitmore. The man stepped forward. Caleb saw the face. He knew the face. Samuel Reeves. Been a while, Caleb. 15 years a while? Sounds about right. Samuel Reeves, old friend, old partner. The only man besides the dead one who knew about the Elk Meadow shack. Caleb had last seen him at a funeral. Caleb's wife's funeral. Caleb's boy's funeral. Same day. Same hole in the ground. What in God's name are you doing on my ridge, Samuel? Looking for you. Why? Because a Whitmore rider came through my place this morning asking, had I seen a widow with twin babies? And I said no. And after he rode off, I got to thinking about the kind of man who asks a question like that. And I got to thinking about the kind of man I used to ride with. And I reckoned if a widow was running from Silas Whitmore, there was exactly 1 cabin in these mountains she might end up at. Caleb watched him long. You alone, Samuel. I'm alone. You with me or against me? Caleb Hunter, I rode with you for 6 years. I stood next to you when they put Sarah and the boy in the ground. You think I came up this ridge to stand against you? Caleb let out a long breath he had not known he was holding. I'm riding for Millerton. I figured. Circuit judge comes through on the 1st. I know he does. I ain't gonna make it without help. Sheriff's bought. Half the town's bought. I go in alone, I come out in a box, and she and the babies are dead inside a week. I figured that too. So I'm coming with you. Caleb looked at him. At the gray in his beard that had not been there 15 years ago. At the set of his shoulders that had not changed 1 inch. You sure, Samuel? I ain't been sure of much in this life, Caleb Hunter, but I am sure of this. A man who leaves a woman tied to a post to die with her newborns ain't a man the Lord made to keep winning. Somebody's got to put a boot on his neck. Might as well be us. Might get killed. Might get worse than killed. Whitmore's got lawyers. Might get ruined. Samuel Reeves spat in the snow. He shouldered the rifle. Caleb, I've been ruined. Ruin ain't the worst thing a man can be. Caleb nodded. Once. Get your horse. Horse is tied 50 yards back. Then get him and ride. We got a town to reach before Silas Whitmore gets word we're coming. Samuel turned to go. Stopped. Turned back. Caleb? Yeah. How many babies? 2. Twin girls. Samuel Reeves went very still. He looked down at the snow. When he looked up, his eyes were not the same as they had been. Twin girls, he said. Twin girls. Silas Whitmore left twin girls to freeze. He did. Samuel nodded slow. Caleb. Yeah. We ain't just getting a judge. We are ending him. I know we are. Good. He walked back into the timber for his horse. Caleb sat the mare and looked down the trail toward Millerton. The wind had shifted while they talked. It was coming out of the north now, harder, meaner, carrying a bite that promised the storm was not done with this country yet. Far behind him at the line shack on Elk Meadow, Emily Carter stirred in her sleep and reached out with one bandaged hand. Her fingers found the warmth of a bearskin and the soft breathing of her 2 daughters. She did not fully wake. She just tightened her grip and slept on. Far ahead of him, in a lamplit office in the back of the Whitmore ranch house, Silas Whitmore was already writing a telegram to a United States Marshal in Cheyenne, claiming the theft of 2 Whitmore heirs by a mountain drifter named Caleb Hunter, and requesting the warrant be expedited. The paper was going out. The paper was already moving. Caleb Hunter did not know it yet, but he was about to ride into a town where his name was already on a piece of paper meant to hang him. The mare's hooves beat a hard rhythm down the ridge. Samuel's gelding matched her stride on the left. How far to town? Samuel asked. 2 hours if the trail holds. It won't hold. No, it won't. They rode another mile without speaking. Then Samuel lifted his chin and nodded off to the east. Caleb? I see 'em. 2 riders on the lower trace. Whitmore brands on both horses. They were not riding toward the cabin. They were riding away from it, back toward the ranch. They already been, Samuel said. They already been. And they didn't find her. Because she wasn't there. Which means they are going back to tell Silas. And Silas is going to send more. How many more? All of them. Every hand he's got, plus the sheriff, plus paper. Samuel spat. Caleb, the shack. I know. If they backtrack your trail. I know, Samuel. That snow ain't deep enough to hide 3 sets of tracks for long. I know. They pulled up at the fork. Caleb turned the mare one way. Samuel stayed pointed the other. Samuel, say it. You ride for Millerton alone. You find Judge Abernathy's office and you tell his clerk the circuit is coming early. You tell him Caleb Hunter swore an affidavit about Silas Whitmore trying to murder his son's widow and twin grandchildren. You tell him there's rope marks on her wrists and 2 babies breathing and a foreman named Cole who tied the knots. You tell him every word of it in writin'. You hear me. I hear you. Clerk's name is Henry Duval, Frenchman, honest as a sunrise. 15 years ago he would not take a penny from a Whitmore, and I don't believe that man's changed. And you. I'm riding back. Caleb. I brought her up there, Samuel. I left her alone. If they come, I need to be the one standing in that door. Alone. Alone if I have to. Samuel Reeves looked at him a long moment. Caleb Hunter. Yeah. Don't you die on me. Don't plan to. Man who don't plan to is usually the one who does. Then I'll plan harder. Samuel kicked his horse. He was gone down the trail in 5 heartbeats. Caleb turned the mare and drove her back up the ridge at a pace that would have killed a lesser animal. He prayed a second time. He had not prayed twice in 15 years, and now he had prayed twice in one morning. At the line shack, Emily woke to the sound she had been dreading her whole waking life. Hoofbeats. Not one horse, not 2, more than she could count. She sat straight up in the pallet. The twins were asleep at her side. She put a hand over each of their small chests to feel them breathing and leaned toward the shuttered window. She could hear voices now, men's voices, calling back and forth. Tracks go this way. Tracks go both ways. He doubled back. He's smart, Cole. He ain't that smart. Spread out. Meadows up through them pines. Cole. Emily felt a coldness go through her that was colder than the snow had been. She eased up off the pallet. Her body screamed. She did not listen to it. She pulled the babies into the bearskin and tied the corners together the way Caleb had shown her a sling she could carry against her chest. "All right, little missus," she whispered. "All right. Mama's got you." She looked at the back wall of the shack. There was no back door. There was a small window she could have crawled through if she were not holding 2 newborns and barely able to stand. She turned back toward the front door. There was an old double-barreled shotgun leaning in the corner. Caleb had pointed to it before he left. Loaded, both barrels, hammers stiff, pull hard. Emily crossed the floor. She lifted the shotgun. It was heavier than she remembered any gun being. She braced it against her hip. She did not want to fire it. She would fire it if she had to. The hoofbeats stopped outside. "Hunter, Hunter, we know you're in there." It was not Caleb's name they should have been calling. They did not know Caleb was not inside. That meant they did not have eyes on the door yet. They were guessing. Emily did not answer. "Hunter, we got warrants, federal warrants. You come out with your hands empty or we burn you out." She pressed her back against the log wall beside the door. The twins stayed sleeping in the sling against her chest. Lily. Rose. She said their names in her head the way a woman says a prayer. Outside, another voice. "Cole. That ain't smoke from a fire. That's cold pipe smoke. Nobody's stoked it in an hour." He's in there, or she's in there. Either way, somebody's in there. Or they left. Then who banked the fire? Could be cold when we got here. A pause. Rush it. And that word hit Emily like a fist. Rush it. 3 riders moved at once. Boots hit the ground. She heard the scrape of a shoulder on the log wall. A man swore. Another laughed. The door exploded inward. The man who came through it was not Cole. He was younger, bigger. He had a pistol out and his eyes scanning wide, which was why he did not look to the left of the door, where she was pressed against the wall. Emily swung the shotgun around. She did not aim. She pointed. She pulled the first trigger. The blast took the man in the shoulder and spun him off his feet. He hit the hearth with his head and he did not get up. Another voice outside cursing. "She's armed, Cole. She's in there with a gun. Get down, get down." Emily stayed pressed to the wall. Her ears were ringing. The twins were screaming now, both of them, full force, the loudest she had ever heard them. "Mama's here," she whispered into the bearskin. "Mama's here, Mama's here." One barrel left. She pulled the shotgun up against her hip again. Waited. "Mrs. Whitmore." Cole's voice now, closer. At the doorframe but not through it. "Mrs. Whitmore, listen to me. We ain't here to hurt you. We're here to take you home, back to your family. You are not my family. Mrs. Whitmore, you're confused. You've been through a terrible ordeal. That drifter Hunter took you. He saved me, ma'am. He saved me and you know it, Abner Cole, because you are the one who tied the rope." Silence. Ma'am, come out. Nobody needs to get hurt. The man on the floor is hurt. He'll live. If he moves, I'll kill him with the second barrel. Ma'am. I mean it, Mr. Cole. I will kill him, and then I will kill whoever walks through that door next. I gave birth 3 days ago. I have nothing left to lose but these 2 girls, and I will go into the ground with the gun still hot before I give them to you. Another silence. Longer. Cole's voice came back different. Lower. Almost careful. Mrs. Whitmore. Mr. Silas is on his way up. Let him come. Mrs. Whitmore, he brought the sheriff. He brought a piece of paper. Says you are unfit. Says them babies are wards of the Whitmore estate. He can bring any paper he likes. He's bringing the law, Mrs. Whitmore. Then the law is coming to a place where a woman was left to die with her newborns. I hope the law has eyes. A horse came hard up the trail. Emily heard it, and her heart went with it. She knew the sound of that mare. Caleb, she whispered it into the bearskin, into the crying mouths of her 2 daughters, into the cold wall at her back. Caleb. Outside the shack, Abner Cole heard the hoofbeats too. He did not turn to look. He did not have to. Hunter, he called. Hunter, ride in slow. You come in fast, we shoot you out of the saddle. Cole. Caleb's voice. Already at the edge of the clearing, already closer than Cole wanted. Hunter. You got a man down in there. I got a man down. Is he dead? Not yet. Then you ride out, and you take him with you, and you ride back down this mountain, while I still remember my manners. You don't give orders up here, Hunter. Up here is the only place I do give orders, Abner. Silas is coming. Sheriff's coming. Federal paper is coming behind 'em both. You ain't winning this, Hunter. You ain't even holding it. Then I ain't got much to lose, have I? Caleb swung down off the mare. Emily heard the boots hit the snow, heard the lever of the Winchester work. Emily. I'm here, Caleb. You hurt? No. Girls. Breathin'. Good. She heard him walk the half circle around the shack, heard him talking low, not to her, to the other men. How many of you? He said. 4 still up, Cole answered. Dan's down inside. 4 and a downed one, and Silas and the sheriff comin'. And more behind them. Well, Abner, that's a lot of men for one tied-up widow, ain't it? Hunter. Boy, this ain't gonna end the way you want it. Maybe not, but it ain't gonna end the way you want it either. There was a long pause. Emily heard boots shifting, saddles creaking, a horse blowing out snow. She held the shotgun against her hip, and she did not move. Then a new sound. Another set of hooves. Several. Coming up the trail hard. Sheriff's here, one of Cole's men muttered. About time, Cole said. 3 new horses broke into the clearing. The first rider was a gray-haired man with a star on his coat. Sheriff Bill Garrity. The second was a lawyer in a city hat and a wool coat too fine for the mountains. The third was Silas Whitmore himself. Emily knew that voice before she saw him. That voice had told a foreman to leave her in the cold till it did the Lord's work. That voice had called her daughters a waste of a name. Hunter. Silas Whitmore. Flat. Step away from the door. Mr. Whitmore. I said step away. And I said no. Sheriff. Garrity cleared his throat. Caleb Hunter. I got a federal warrant here for the kidnapping of 2 minor children from the Whitmore Ranch. I also got a writ of lunacy on the widow Emily Whitmore filed by Silas Whitmore as her nearest male relation. I am ordering you to stand aside. Bill. Caleb. Bill Garrity, you and I been knowing each other 22 years. We have. You know that paper is crooked. I know that paper is signed. Signed ain't straight. Caleb, it's the only paper I got. I got to enforce what's in front of me. You got to enforce what is lawful, Bill, not what is signed. That ain't how it works, and you know it. Then let me show you what is under that paper. Let me show you the woman. Let me show you her wrists. Caleb. Bill, let her come out. Let her stand on her own 2 feet and speak. You look at her. You look at them babies. You look at her wrists. Then you read me that warrant again and tell me to step aside. Silas Whitmore cut in hard. Sheriff, do your duty. Mr. Whitmore, do your duty. Mr. Whitmore, the man is asking me to let the woman speak. That ain't against the law. She is not of sound mind. Then it won't take but a minute to prove it. Silas's voice went to iron. Sheriff Garrity, I remind you of your obligations. And I remind you, Mr. Whitmore, that the obligation of the bank has got nothing to do with the obligation of this badge in front of witnesses. Silence that felt like a thrown rock. Caleb kept his rifle down, but ready. Emily, he called. Come on out, ma'am. Slow. Babies first. Let these good men see what Mr. Whitmore has been worrying over. Emily set the shotgun down. She untied the corners of the bearskin and lifted the babies against her chest, one in the crook of each arm. She walked to the door. She stepped out into the light. Her dress was torn. Her hair was loose. Her wrists were black and purple with the grooves of the rope, and the grooves were bleeding again where she had moved against them. She held her daughters up. Lily in the right arm, Rose in the left, both of them crying, both of them pink and alive. She looked straight at Silas Whitmore. These are your granddaughters. Silas did not speak. You told Abner Cole to take me to the east pasture. You told him to tie me to the post. You told him, and I quote your exact words, till the Cole does the Lord's work. Your wife was not in the room. Your other son was not in the room. But I was in the room, Mr. Whitmore. I was in the room with my daughters less than 1 day old. I heard you say it. And Abner Cole did what you told him to do. Silas's mouth opened. Closed. Sheriff Garrity, Emily said. She did not take her eyes off Silas. My name is Emily Carter Whitmore. I am the widow of Thomas Whitmore. I am the mother of Lily and Rose Whitmore. I was not run off. I was not mad. I was tied to a cedar post with Whitmore rope and left to freeze because my husband's father did not want girls to inherit his name. That is a lie, Silas said. Look at my wrists, Mr. Whitmore. That is a lie. Look at them. Sheriff, she is clearly unwell. Mr. Whitmore, that was Garrity, soft, almost tired. Sheriff. Mr. Whitmore, I've been sheriff of this county 19 years. I have seen rope marks. Those are rope marks, and them rope marks is fresh. Sheriff Garrity. Mr. Whitmore, I'm going to need you to step down off that horse. Excuse me. Step down, sir. I am taking a statement from the lady. And then I am going to take a statement from Mr. Hunter. And then I am going to take a statement from Mr. Cole. And then I am going to decide what paper I am enforcing today. Sheriff, you work for me. No, Mr. Whitmore, I have owed you. Been a difference between the two, and today I am remembering which is which. A sound came from back down the trail. More hooves, every head turned. 2 more riders came up through the pines. The first was Samuel Reeves. The second was a thin man in a black coat and a judge's hat, riding with a clerk's satchel across his saddle. He was not supposed to be here for 4 more days. Samuel pulled up. His horse was blowing white. Bill Garrity, Silas Whitmore, Abner Cole. Who in hell are you? Silas said. Samuel Reeves, formerly of the Cheyenne Rangers, currently a citizen of this territory and a friend of Caleb Hunter. And the man with you? The man with me is Judge Edmund Abernathy of the United States District Court for the Wyoming Territory, who was passing through Fort Laramie on other business and was kind enough to ride 2 days ahead of his circuit to hear this matter. Judge. The judge swung down off his horse slow. He was not a young man. He adjusted his hat. Sheriff Garrity? Your Honor, I want every man here to put his sidearm on the ground grip first, right now. Mr. Whitmore first. Judge. Mr. Whitmore, your sidearm, on the ground. Silas did not move. Mr. Whitmore, I will not ask a third time. Silas pulled the pistol from his coat. He let it drop into the snow. Now, the judge said, I would like to see the young lady's wrists. Emily held them out. The judge looked. He looked a long time. He did not speak while he was looking. When he was done, he raised his eyes to Silas Whitmore. "Mr. Whitmore, you are going to come with us to Millerton. We are going to have a conversation. And I believe, sir, that conversation is going to take a considerable amount of time." Silas Whitmore stared at the judge. "You have no idea who you are talking to." "On the contrary, sir," said Judge Abernathy. "I believe I am talking to a man who left his own granddaughters to die in the snow." Nobody moved, not one man. The wind came down off the ridge. It pushed against Emily's hair and made the babies cry harder, and she pressed her face into the top of Lily's small head, and she did not let go. Caleb Hunter lowered the Winchester. He walked slow across the snow and stopped in front of her. He did not touch her. He just stood between her and everything else in the world. "Emily," he said low enough that only she could hear. "You done it, ma'am." Caleb: "Yeah. Don't you dare leave my side." "No, ma'am. Not one step." "No, ma'am." And with her daughters crying against her chest and her wrists bleeding, and Silas Whitmore standing unarmed in the snow behind her. Emily Carter. Whitmore let out one long breath that had been trapped inside her since the night Thomas died, and for the first time in a long time she stood, and she did not fall. They rode down out of the mountains before full dark. Silas Whitmore went first, hands tied to the pommel. Abner Cole rode behind him with a rope on his wrists as well. The sheriff rode flanker. The judge rode easy, not hurrying. Samuel Reeves rode drag. Caleb Hunter rode with Emily in the saddle in front of him. The twins were bundled against her chest. She had not let go of them since she stepped out of the shack. She was not going to let go of them anytime soon. "Caleb?" "Yeah." "Is it over?" "No, ma'am." "No." "The hard part starts now." "What's the hard part?" "The hard part is the courtroom. Silas is going to fight. He's got money, he's got lawyers, he's got favors owed from here to Washington. What happened on the mountain was the small fight. The big fight is coming." Emily closed her eyes. "I am so tired, Caleb." "I know you are. I don't know if I have a big fight left in me." "You do." "Caleb, Emily, you put a round of buckshot into a man who came through that door with a pistol in his hand. You stood in a snowdrift with 2 babies in your arms and called Silas Whitmore a killer to his face in front of a federal judge. You got a big fight left in you. You got a bigger fight than anybody I ever rode with." She was quiet a long moment. "Caleb?" I was so scared." "Scared don't mean weak. Scared means you knew what was at stake." She turned her face against his coat. "Don't let me do this alone." "Ma'am, you ain't alone. Not 1 minute more." They made Millerton just before the moon came up. The judge put Silas and Cole in the sheriff's jail. Garrity locked the door himself. He did it without looking at Silas. Silas did not say a word the whole time. He sat on the cot and stared at the wall, and his face did not move. The judge took a room at the one hotel in town. He took 2 more rooms beside it for Emily and the twins, and for Caleb. He told the clerk that the rooms were not to be entered by any person without the judge's written permission, and that if any attempt were made, federal charges would follow. The clerk nodded so hard his neck cracked. Emily would not let Caleb out of sight. He sat in a chair by the door of her room while she fed the babies. He sat in the chair while she slept. Samuel Reeves brought up hot stew from the kitchen at midnight, and Caleb ate it one-handed with the Winchester across his knees. "You gonna sleep, Caleb?" "Later." "Later when?" "Later when she can breathe without jumping." "That ain't tonight." "Then not tonight." Samuel nodded. He sat down on the floor across the doorway and pulled his hat down over his eyes. "I got the hallway." "You don't have to." "I know I don't." The night passed. No attack came. Silas Whitmore sat in a cell and did not speak. Abner Cole sat in a cell and started to sweat. At dawn, Cole asked for the sheriff. Garrity came down. Cole said, "Bill, I want to make a statement." "You got yourself a lawyer yet?" "I don't want a lawyer. I want a deal." I ain't the man makes deals, Abner. That's the judge. Then get me the judge. Garrity got the judge. Cole talked for 2 hours. The clerk, Henry Duval, wrote every word down in a neat hand, and at the end of it, Cole signed his name. He signed to everything. He signed that Silas Whitmore had ordered him to take Emily Whitmore and her 2 newborn daughters out to the East Pasture Line post on the night of the 23rd of February. He signed that Silas had said the exact words, "Till the cold does the Lord's work." He signed that he had tied her himself. He signed that he had left the babies at her feet. He signed that he had ridden back to the ranch alone and had not returned. He signed that Silas had paid him $200 in gold that same night for the job, and that he had the gold wrapped in a saddle blanket under the floorboards of his bunkhouse. He signed that Silas had sent the telegram to the Cheyenne marshal accusing Caleb Hunter of kidnapping, and that Silas had dictated the words to the telegraph boy himself. He signed that Silas had arranged for a doctor not to be sent for Thomas Whitmore on the night Thomas took the fever, because Silas wanted Thomas to die before the twins were born, so there would be no formal heirs, and Emily could be quietly paid off and sent east. That last piece Abner Cole had not been told outright, but he had heard Silas and the ranch bookkeeper arguing about a canceled wire to the doctor in Casper. He had heard enough. When the deputy read the statement back to him, Cole put his head down on the table and cried like a broken child. "I got a wife, Bill. I got 3 kids." "I know you do, Abner. I did what he told me." "I know. A man does what his boss tells him to do. Not that, Abner, not that. I know. You knew when you tied the knots." "I knew." "Then why?" Cole wiped his face on his sleeve. "Because I thought he'd kill me if I didn't. And I was scared." "Scared is a reason, Abner. It ain't an excuse." Garrity closed the file. He walked out of the room. He did not look at Cole again. Upstairs in the hotel, Emily heard the news from Samuel. She listened without speaking. The babies were nursing. She did not interrupt them. When Samuel finished, she nodded once. "Thank you, Mr. Reeves." "Samuel, ma'am." "Samuel." "Ma'am, you got any family to send for?" "My mother, in Ohio. I haven't written her since before Thomas died." "You want me to send a wire?" "Yes, please." "What should it say?" Emily thought a long moment. "Tell her her granddaughters are alive. Tell her I am alive. Tell her I am coming home as soon as the judge lets me." "Ma'am?" "Yes." "Are you going home?" Emily looked at the window. She looked at the 2 small sleeping faces. She looked at the door where Caleb Hunter was still sitting in a chair with a rifle across his knees for the 2nd night in a row. "I don't know yet, Samuel." "Ma'am." "I don't know yet." Samuel tipped his hat and left. Around noon, Caleb knocked once on the inside of her door. "Emily?" "Come in, Caleb." He came in. He looked like a man who had not slept in 4 days because he had not slept in 4 days. He sat down on the edge of the bed and rested his hands on his knees. His knuckles were scabbed over from the cold. "Judge wants you to make a statement this afternoon." "All right." "He's bringing in a doctor, too. For the babies. For you. Make sure everything's on paper." "All right." Cole confessed. "Samuel told me. Silas ain't talking, but it don't matter. Cole's statement alone is enough to hang him." "Will they?" "Will they what?" "Hang him." Caleb looked at the floor. "Territory's got no death penalty for what he done. He attempted a murder, not completed one. That's a prison sentence. 20 years if the judge is in a mood." 20 years. "Yeah." "He's 62 years old, Caleb." "I know. 20 years in a territorial prison is a death sentence for a 62-year-old man." "I know it is." She thought about it a long time. "Good." Caleb nodded. "Emily." "Yes." "There's something else." "What?" "Cole said Silas had your husband's doctor wired off on the night Thomas took the fever. Silas did it on purpose, so there would be no air before the babies came, so he could send you off quiet." Emily went very still. "He killed Thomas." "He let Thomas die. That is near enough to the same thing." She did not cry. She had cried all the tears a woman had in her for Thomas, and they had run out 2 weeks ago. Instead, something went hard behind her eyes, something that had been soft a long time. Caleb. Yeah. Tell the judge I want to testify. He'll call you anyway. I want to testify first, not last, first. I want the jury to hear it from me before they hear it from anybody else. You sure? I am sure. Caleb studied her. You have changed since Tuesday, Emily Carter. I have changed since the moment you cut the rope, Caleb Hunter. That a good change? I don't know yet, but it is a change I am going to keep. He nodded. He stood up. One more thing. What? Whitmore lawyer wrote in from Cheyenne this morning. Name of Randolph Beal. He is already over at the jail. He is already drawing up motions. Motions to do what? To get Silas released on bond. To move the trial to Cheyenne. To keep Cole's statement out on a technicality. To put you on the stand and rip you apart. To make the jury believe you are a grieving widow who imagined the whole thing. Oh. Yeah. Can he do all that? He can try. Will he win any of it? Some of it. Not all of it. Judge Abernathy is an honest man, but he follows the book, and the book has holes in it. A rich man's lawyer knows every hole. Caleb. Yeah, I am not afraid of him. I know you ain't. Let him come. He will. Let him come. Randolph Beal came that afternoon. He came with a briefcase, a junior associate, and a voice as smooth as new soap. He asked to see Emily. The judge said the lady would be deposed only in the presence of her own counsel. Her counsel, Beal said with a small smile. And who might that be? Her counsel is Mr. Henry Duval of Millerton, acting pro bono at my direction. A clerk who passed the territory bar in 1879, Mr. Beal, and who has practiced law in his spare time for 15 years. I trust him as I trust any man in this county. Her deposition proceeds with him present, or it does not proceed at all. Your Honor? That is my ruling, Mr. Beal. Beal adjusted his cuffs. Very well. The deposition began in the judge's hotel room at 3 in the afternoon. Emily sat in a chair by the window. Henry Duval sat at her right. The babies were in the next room with Caleb. She could hear them faintly when one of them fussed. Randolph Beal started gentle. Mrs. Whitmore, may I call you Emily? You may call me Mrs. Whitmore. Of course, Mrs. Whitmore. I am so very sorry for the loss of your husband. Thank you, Mr. Beal. A terrible ordeal. Childbirth, grief, the strain on a young mother. I imagine the past weeks have been a blur. They have not been a blur, Mr. Beal. I remember every minute. Surely not every minute. Try me. Beal's smile tightened. Mrs. Whitmore, isn't it true that you were at the time of the alleged events under the influence of laudanum prescribed by the ranch midwife? No, I was not prescribed laudanum. I was prescribed nothing. The midwife was a kitchen girl named Sadie who had never delivered a child in her life and who was handed a basin of hot water and told to do her best. She had no laudanum. She had no training. She had a dead husband's mother shouting at her through the door to hurry up and get it done. Mrs. Whitmore. I am answering your question, Mr. Beal. Please answer yes or no. Then the answer is no. I was not on laudanum. I was not on any drug. I was a woman who had just given birth to twins in a room without a doctor and who watched her father-in-law look at her children for the first time and call them a waste of a name. That is what I remember. Exactly that. In those words. Beal wrote something on his pad. Mrs. Whitmore, is it possible that in your grief you misheard Mr. Whitmore? No. Is it possible that the foreman Abner Cole acted without Mr. Whitmore's direct instruction? No, because I heard him receive the instruction. Standing in the hallway, through the open door. I heard every word. I was in the bed not 15 feet from both of them. Mrs. Whitmore, Mr. Beal, I must put it to you plainly. Is it not the case that you have formed an attachment to the man Caleb Hunter, and that this attachment has colored your memory of events? Emily did not answer immediately. Henry Duval started to object. She lifted one hand to stop him. Mr. Beale. Yes. I met Caleb Hunter on the morning he cut me out of the ropes your client's foreman tied me into. Before that morning, I had never seen Caleb Hunter. Before that morning, I did not know his name. Before that morning, I had no attachment to him of any kind. Any attachment I have formed since is not a colorin' of my memory. It is a consequence of him being the only living soul who came looking when I was dying in the snow. You may ask me that question any way you like, Mr. Beale. The answer will never change. Beale wrote again. He wrote longer this time. No further questions today, Mrs. Whitmore. Thank you, Mr. Beale. He rose. He packed his briefcase. At the door, he turned. Mrs. Whitmore. Yes. You are an impressive young woman. I was a young woman before your client tried to kill me, Mr. Beale. I am something else now. I will leave you to find the word for it. He left. Henry Duval looked at her with something like awe. Mrs. Whitmore. Mr. Duval, that was the finest deposition I have ever witnessed, and I have been a clerk for 30 years. Thank you. I believe it is the first deposition I have ever given. Ma'am, if you ever need a clerk, I will know who to call. He left too. Emily sat by the window. The winter sun was low. She could hear through the wall Caleb Hunter singing a low, flat song to her daughters in a voice he probably did not know anyone could hear. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Papa's gonna buy you a mockingbird. She closed her eyes. She listened. Papa. He had not said it on purpose. He had said it because it was the song, and the song had the word in it. And he was not thinking about the word, he was thinking about the baby who had finally stopped crying in his arms. But she had heard it, and she knew sitting there in the last light of the short February day, with the deposition done and the confession signed, and the father of her dead husband locked in a cell 2 streets over, that the life she had been trying to imagine for herself and her daughters was not after all going to be a life she lived alone. A knock at the door. Come in, Caleb. He came in. He had a baby on each shoulder. Both were asleep. He looked like a man who did not know he was smiling. Ma'am, Caleb. They fell asleep. I heard. Both at once. First time. Yes. He sat down in the chair Beale had vacated. He did not know it had been Beale's chair. He would not have sat in it if he had. Emily. Yes. The trial is set for Monday. That's 3 days. That's 3 days. All right? Randolph Beale will come at you hard. He already came at me hard. He will come harder. Then I will stand harder. Caleb nodded. Emily. Yes. When this is done. When this is done what? When this is done, you and me, we are going to have a conversation. About what? About what happens next. Caleb. Yes. I already know what happens next. He went very still. The babies breathed against his shoulders. He did not speak. I am going to raise my daughters somewhere warm and safe. I am going to make sure they know their father loved them. I am going to make sure they know their grandfather is in a prison cell, and that they never, ever, ever have to fear a Whitmore again. Yes, ma'am. And I am going to raise them in the cabin of a man who heard them crying in the snow and did not ride past, if that man will have us. Will. Caleb Hunter, who had not cried in 15 years, who had sworn no living thing would ever make him bury a love again, looked down at the 2 small sleeping faces on his shoulders and at the woman in the chair across from him, and his eyes went bright and his jaw worked, and he spoke the only word he could speak without his voice breaking in half. Yes. She nodded. Good. Outside, the street lamp down by the sheriff's office came on yellow against the snow. A dog barked once at something nobody saw. A train whistle sounded far away, carrying news into a territory that was about to change more than it knew. And in a small hotel room, above a dry goods store in Millerton, Wyoming, Emily Carter Whitmore and Caleb Hunter sat 3 feet apart with 2 sleeping babies between them and did not speak for a long time. They did not need to. The conversation had already been had. Monday came cold and bright. The courthouse in Millerton was a two-story frame building with a pot-bellied stove in the middle of the main room and benches that had held half the funerals and weddings and trials the county had ever seen. By 9 in the morning, every bench was full. By 9:15, people were standing along the back wall, 3 deep. By 9:30, there were faces pressed to the windows from outside. Word had traveled. Every hand on every ranch between Millerton and the Powder River had heard some version of it by Sunday evening. A young widow, 2 newborn girls, a rich man and a rope and a cold night. A cowboy who heard crying in the snow. People had ridden in from 40 miles out. They had left chores undone. They had brought their wives and their grown daughters and their mothers. Some of the older women had brought their Bibles, which they held in their laps without opening the way a woman holds a Bible when she is about to watch something she cannot look away from. Emily walked in with the twins in her arms and Caleb Hunter at her right shoulder. Every seat on the front bench on the left-hand side had been left empty. She did not know why until she sat down, and the woman in the second row leaned forward and whispered, "We saved it for you, Mrs. Whitmore. We saved it for you and your girls." Emily turned. She looked at the woman, a farm wife, 40-some years old, work-reddened hands. "Thank you," she said. "We are with you, ma'am." "Thank you, all of us." Emily looked back at the whole left side of the courtroom and saw what she had not seen coming through the door. Every woman in that room was watching her. Not watching like a crowd watches a show. Watching like a wall watches a storm. Watching like they were daring any man in the room to try anything. She turned forward. She did not cry. She had decided before she left the hotel that she was not going to cry in that courthouse. Not one tear. Not for anything, Randolph Beale said, and not for anything Silas Whitmore did. Her daughters were going to see her in photographs one day. They were going to ask what she looked like on the day the man who tried to murder them was put on trial. And the only photograph she wanted them to have was one where her eyes were dry and her back was straight. Judge Abernathy came in at 10. The whole room stood. The trial ran 4 days. Abner Cole took the stand first and said every word of his confession out loud. And when Randolph Beale tried to shake him on cross, Cole just shook his head and said, "Mr. Beale, I done it. I tied the knots. I left the babies. I took the gold. Mr. Whitmore told me to, and I done it. You can ask me 100 different ways. I am going to give you the same answer every time." Sheriff Garrity took the stand and entered the rope into evidence. The same rope Caleb had cut off her wrists. It still had her blood on it. The doctor from Casper took the stand and testified that he had been sent for on the night Thomas Whitmore took the fever and that the wire had been canceled 90 minutes later by a second wire sent from the Whitmore ranch. He had the telegraph receipts. He had kept them for 2 years in a drawer, he said, because something about the whole business had never sat right with him. Caleb took the stand and told what he had heard and what he had seen and what he had done. He did not decorate it. He did not stretch it. He said the word "cryin'" 3 times, and each time a different woman in the courtroom made a small sound she could not help. Samuel Reeves took the stand and confirmed every piece of it. And on the afternoon of the 3rd day, Emily took the stand. She walked up to the box with her daughters still in her arms. Judge Abernathy did not stop her. Randolph Beale opened his mouth to object and thought better of it when he saw the look on the faces of the 12 men in the jury box. Every one of them had a mother. Most of them had daughters. 3 of them had daughters about Emily's age. The room had been full of women for 3 days, and the jury had been feeling the weight of that room on the back of their necks the whole time. Emily sat down with Lily in one arm and Rose in the other. "Mrs. Whitmore," said the judge, "you may begin when you are ready." "Your Honor?" "Yes. Before I begin, may I say one thing to the jury?" "You may." She turned to the 12 men. She looked at them one at a time, not fast, not to rush them. She looked each of them full in the face until each of them had looked back. "Gentlemen," nobody moved. "My name is Emily Carter. My husband's name was Thomas Whitmore, and I loved him. These are our daughters, Lily and Rose, 3 weeks old this Thursday. I want you to look at them before I tell you what I have to tell you, because I want you to remember when I am done that these are the two children Silas Whitmore tried to kill." She lifted the babies a little. Both of them were awake. Both were quiet. Lily was looking at the ceiling. Rose was looking at the jury. Rose blinked. Slow. One of the jurors, a big man in his 50s with a cattleman's jacket, made a sound in his throat like he had been hit. Emily lowered the babies back against her chest. "I am ready to begin now, Your Honor." She told it all. She told it in order. She told it plain. She did not use fancy words, and she did not use small ones. She told them about the fever and the canceled wire. She told them about the labor and the kitchen girl and the dead husband buried the same day her babies were born. She told them what Silas had said in the hall. She told them how Abner Cole had come for her. She told them about the post and the rope and the cold. She told them the part nobody had written down yet. The part where she had watched Cole ride away. The part where she had known she was going to die. The part where she had put her face down toward her babies and told them she was sorry, she was so sorry she had tried. The part where she had stopped feeling her feet. The part where she had stopped feeling her hands. The part where she had stopped being able to cry because she had nothing left in her to cry with. And the part where a voice had spoken in the gray morning and said, "Ma'am, I'm gonna cut you loose." She told the jury about that voice. She told the jury what it had sounded like. She told the jury that she had thought at first that she was already dead, and it was the voice of God, because no living man who had ever crossed her path in a Whitmore yard had ever spoken to her in a voice like that. She said, "And then he cut the rope, and I knew he was a man, because only a man's knife is that gentle and that fast at the same time." She stopped. The courtroom did not breathe. "That is what happened to me, gentlemen. That is what Silas Whitmore ordered, and Abner Cole carried out. My husband's father tried to kill me and my daughters because we were girls, and we stood in the way of the name he wanted to pass down. I am telling you this not because I want pity. I do not. I am telling you this because there is a man on the other side of that aisle who will do it again to some other woman in this territory if you do not stop him today." She looked at Silas Whitmore for the first and only time. He did not look back. "That is all I have to say, Your Honor." Randolph Beale did not cross-examine her. He had planned to. He had pages of notes. The junior associate was ready with the binders. Beale stood up, looked at his notes, looked at the jury, looked at the women along the wall, sat back down. "No questions, Your Honor." The jury was out 41 minutes. They came back, and the foreman stood, and he did not meet Silas Whitmore's eye, and he said in a voice that cracked once and then steadied, "Guilty, on all counts, Your Honor." Silas Whitmore did not move. Judge Abernathy looked down at the sentencing papers a long moment. "Silas Whitmore, on the charge of attempted murder in the first degree, attempted murder of a minor, 2 counts, conspiracy to commit murder and criminal negligence resulting in death. I sentence you to 40 years at hard labor at the Territorial Prison in Laramie. There will be no parole. There will be no appeal of sentence, only of conviction, and the Territory will contest any such appeal vigorously. You will be transported tomorrow morning. You will not see your ranch again. You will not see your other children again except under conditions set by this court. This court is adjourned." The gavel came down. Silas Whitmore stood up. His lawyer took his elbow. The bailiff took the other. He walked out of the courtroom between them. He did not look at Emily. He did not look at anyone. An hour later, he would sit on the edge of the cot in his cell, and a year later, he would die there in his sleep of a failure of the heart, and the Territory would bury him in a pine box with no name on it, and nobody who had ever sat in that Millerton courthouse would shed one tear. But that was a year later. On the day the verdict came down, Emily Carter walked out of the courthouse with her daughters in her arms and Caleb Hunter at her right shoulder, and the women on the benches stood up one by one as she passed, and not one of them said a word, because not one of them needed to. They were married 3 weeks later, not in a church. Emily said she did not want a church. She said she wanted the mountain. She wanted the ridge where Caleb had heard the crying. She wanted the spot where he had cut her loose. She wanted that spot to mean something more than what it had meant the first time. So they rode up together, her and Caleb, and the twins, and Samuel Reeves, and Henry Duval, and Judge Abernathy, who had stayed an extra 2 weeks to make certain all the paperwork on the Whitmore estate was squared away. The judge performed the ceremony himself. He said later in a letter to his wife back in Cheyenne that it was the most honest wedding he had ever stood at, and that he had stood at many. Emily wore a plain blue dress her mother had sent from Ohio. Caleb wore the only clean shirt he owned. The twins wore matching knit caps that an old woman in Millerton had made them on the night of the verdict and had pressed into Emily's hands at the door of the hotel without saying her name. The judge said the words. Caleb said, "I do." Emily said, "I do." Samuel Reeves held Lily. Henry Duval held Rose. The wind came down off the ridge and did not bite this time. It moved through the pines, and it sounded for once like a thing that wished them well. And that was the end of the old story. The new one took its time. Caleb built onto the cabin that summer. He put a second room onto the south side for the girls. He put a proper stone chimney where the old tin pipe had been. He put glass in the windows. Real glass shipped up from Cheyenne. Emily planted a garden in the clearing behind the cabin, and the first year the deer ate most of it, and the second year Caleb built her a fence, and the third year she put up 40 jars of preserves and gave half of them away to the neighbors down the ridge. There were neighbors now. Samuel Reeves moved his place closer and married a schoolteacher from Billings the next spring. Other families started taking up the quarter sections along the creek. A one-room schoolhouse went up 2 miles down the ridge in the 5th year. Emily taught there 2 afternoons a week after the girls were old enough to sit quiet on a bench. She was a good teacher. Her mother had been a teacher. It turned out it was in her. The twins grew. Lily was the quiet one. Rose was the loud one. Lily could ride a horse at 4. Rose could talk her father out of anything by the time she was 3. They called him Papa from the first word either of them spoke, and neither of them ever called him anything else. Caleb did not cry the day they first called him that. He did not cry the day Lily fell off the fence and broke her wrist, and he had to set it himself because the doctor was 3 hours away. He did not cry the day Rose brought home her first school ribbon. He did not cry on any of the days a man might have expected to. He cried one time. He cried at the supper table on an ordinary Tuesday in the 7th year when Lily was 7 and Rose was 7, and Emily was across the table laughing at something Rose had said, and Caleb sat there with his fork halfway to his mouth and looked at the 3 of them and understood all at once, in a way he had not let himself understand before, that he was not going to have to bury another love, that he had been given a second one, that the second one was going to bury him someday, the way the natural order ran, and not the other way around. He put the fork down. He put his face in his hands, and his wife came around the table without saying one word and put her arms around his shoulders, and the girls did not know yet what was happening, but they came too because their mother had. And the 4 of them stood there like that in the cabin he had built for them until he could breathe again. "Papa," Rose said, muffled against his shirt. "Papa, what's wrong?" "Nothin', little miss." "Then why are you crying?" "Because your papa is happy. Happy people don't cry." "Sometimes they do." "Why?" He lifted his head. He looked at her, 7 years old, brown hair like her mother. Her grandfather's sharp chin, though she would never know it, because the name Whitmore was not spoken in that house, and the man who had owned it was 12 years in his unmarked grave. Because happy took a long time to get here, little miss. And sometimes when a thing takes a long time, you got to let it out of you in the only way it'll go. Rose considered this with the full gravity of a 7-year-old. "All right, Papa." "All right. Can I have more bread?" "Yes, you can have more bread." Emily laughed. Lily laughed. Caleb Hunter, who had sworn 15 winters of his life to needing nothing and no one, laughed too, and the sound of it rolled out of the open cabin door and down the ridge and into the Wyoming evening, and anyone walking the trail below would have heard it and smiled and not known exactly why. Years later, after the girls were grown and married and gone east to their mother's people for schooling and then come back west to raise their own children on land, their father had left them. An old woman sat on the porch of the cabin in the last light of a summer evening. Her hair was white. Her hands were still strong. Beside her in a chair he had built himself 40 years before sat a man whose beard was white too, and whose hands she held the way she had held them every evening since the day the judge said the words on the mountain. She looked out at the pines. Caleb. Emily. Do you remember the morning? Every morning of it. I thought I was dying. I know you did. I thought nobody was coming. I know. And then you came. And then I came. She rested her head on his shoulder. Caleb Hunter. Yes, ma'am. I want you to know something. Tell me. Every good thing in my life came from the morning you decided not to ride past. He did not answer for a long moment. When he did, his voice was the same rough voice it had been the morning he had cut the rope, only older and gentler and sure. Emily Carter. Yes. Every good thing in my life did too. The sun went down behind the ridge. The cabin behind them was warm. The porch was quiet. Somewhere down the trail, a grandchild was laughing. Somewhere further off, a horse whinnied once, and a dog answered, and the mountain held its peace. A man once rode past a sound he could have ignored. A man once chose to stop. A woman once stood in a snowdrift with her dying children, and believed no one was coming. And she was wrong because one man in a world full of men who would not did. That is the only thing this story was ever about. Kindness saved them. Kindness kept them. Kindness outlasted every rope, every lie, every Whitmore dollar, and every cold Wyoming winter the territory ever threw at their door. And kindness in the end was enough.